Mr. Delacour, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. And welcome everyone this evening to the April 21st regular board meeting for the Northwestern Lehigh School District. This time I would ask you to please join me in opening exercises. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and please be seated. And Stacy, will you please call the roll?
Sure. John Cassiano.
Here.
Willard Delacour.
Here.
Joseph Fatzinger.
Here.
Todd Hernandez.
Here.
Todd Leiser.
Here.
Rosemary Lister. Here. Alan Rex.
Here.
Rachel Scheffler. Here. James Warfel.
Here.
Thank you. All present this evening. I think this is the first time in 1 year and 1 month that we were all sitting around the table in person. And it's truly a good feeling to be partly back. At this time, I would ask for approval of the agenda, 1.04 on this evening's agenda.
Mr. Delacour, I'd like to make a motion. To approve the agenda with the removal of agenda item 3.01, the elementary reconfiguration.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda that we have in front of us, but to remove agenda item 3.01, the elementary reconfiguration. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
The motion has been seconded by Mr. Cassiano. Are there any comments or questions about this motion? It's a little bit out of the ordinary from what we've done up to this point in our board meetings, but this is a parliamentary procedure that's totally acceptable, and I'd like any comments or questions before we vote. Dr.
I
Warfel.
have a question, just for clarification. If we vote on this and it's approved, 3.1 will be removed from the agenda, correct? And
Yes.
there will be no discussion of it this evening at all?
That's correct. 3.01, the consideration for the reconfiguration will be removed from the agenda this evening, and there will be no discussion on it.
So in anticipation of that possible outcome, if we had comments we wish to make about 3.01 tonight, is this the appropriate time to do it?
Let's wait for the, let's do that during the president's report. I have some comments to make about 3.01 as well.
Okay.
And I will open that to anybody on the board that would like to comment about the reconfiguration plan at that point, which will be the president's report. And what this does is this removes the item from the agenda and in essence kills this motion for this evening. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in, excuse me, I'm sorry. Well, no, we're all in person here. I think we can vote in person without a roll call. Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Nay.
Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Okay. John Cassiano.
Aye.
Willard Delacour.
Aye.
Joseph Fatzinger.
Aye.
Todd Hernandez.
No.
Todd Leiser.
No.
Rosemary Lister.
Aye.
Alan Rex.
Nay.
Rachel Scheffler.
No.
James Warfel.
Yes.
My count is 5 yes and 4 no.
Five, four.
5 yes, 4 no, so the motion does carry, and we will remove the item 3.01 from tonight's agenda. So we have approval of the remaining part of the agenda. At this time, I'd like to welcome anyone who is present with us and offer courtesy of floor this evening for anybody that would like to address the board.
I do see one. Dr. Hyman?
Hi, thank you. My name is Kimberly Hyman. I'm speaking on behalf of Circle of Seasons Charter School at 8380 Moore Lane in Fogelsville, Pennsylvania. I just wanted to personally thank Ms. Holman and her team from Northwestern Lehigh School District for taking time out of their busy schedules to conduct a site visit last Friday of Circle of Seasons Charter School. Many of our school's faculty and staff reported productive and collaborative conversations between both of the teams. We were able to provide requested documentation, and from our perspective, the site visit went very well. Given that this is the final remaining step in our charter renewal application, we look forward to a timeline from Northwestern Lehigh School District about when this board will take up for discussion and vote our charter renewal application. Thank you again for your attention to this matter, and thanks to Ms. Holman and her team for the site visit.
Thank you, Dr. Hyman, for being present with us this evening.
Do not see anybody else.
Nobody else?
Someone just raised their hand. Camille?
Yes. Could you please tell me again, what was the vote that you just voted for?
The vote that was just taken removes the elementary reconfiguration from tonight's agenda, essentially killing that motion, and it will not be discussed anymore this evening.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you. I wrote an email to each of you. My children attend this Northwestern Lehigh Elementary, and we just really hope that you consider the parents and what's best for the students. And I thank you very much for that.
Thank you for your comment.
Vanessa? Vanessa?
Yes. Hi, Vanessa Fenstemacher, 3924 Whitetail Court. I just have a question, Mr. Delacour. Can you clarify? So being removed from the agenda tonight versus, I understand what tabling a vote is, but what does this mean? That your next meeting, you can push it to the next meeting? Or can you just clarify the process and what happens from here per the policy?
I would ask our solicitor who is with us to talk about the parliamentary procedure involved with this motion. Attorney Moyer, are you with us?
I am, Mr. Delacour. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Fenstemacher, what this means is it was removed from the agenda tonight, so there will be no discussion, there will be no vote. But even if the board went ahead and tabled the item or went ahead and there was a no vote on the matter, does not preclude it from coming back at a later date or being reintroduced at a later date.
Does that, Mrs. Fenstemacher, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thanks so much.
Is there anyone else waiting to address the board?
I do not see anyone else.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us this evening. We will have some further discussion about this motion that we just took during the president's report this evening, later on in the agenda. At this time, I would ask the board to approve the minutes from the March 17th board meeting and the April 7th workshop meeting, which are attached to your devices.
So move.
A motion by Mr. Fatsinger,
Second.
second by Mr. Weiser. Are there any comments, questions about those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. There are no recognitions or presentations this evening, so we will go at this time into the board president's report. I have some personal thoughts that I would like to mention to the board and to the public who is with us this evening. And thank everyone in our community who have exercised the patience and some degree of trust in this board in allowing this study about the reconfiguration be discussed in complete openness and candor. I'd also offer special thanks to our talented and dedicated teachers and administrators for their thorough research, their evaluation and presentation of this issue. The plan that they developed offered a permanent solution that effectively addressed our overcrowding and unused buildings, underused buildings. They offered education equity and a unified identity, I think, for all of the Tigers from both sides of our boundary line. And to our Tiger parents for their respectful and sincere and sometimes passionate emails about the efforts that the effects that reconfiguration would have on their families. And also to the individual board members who have accepted the responsibility to study, debate, and vote on some extremely difficult issues as this reconfiguration proved to be. Sleepless nights and hours of reading and studying and processing all the information is enormous for those who are committed to do the right thing, which I know is the sentiment of our current board members. I think this entire process can be looked at by our community as a teachable moment for some of our parents who may be new to this community and to our school district. That this community doesn't solve problems with name calling and endless right to know requests, threats of legal action and ethics charges and intimidation, which only drive a wedge between us. We come together and respectfully debate. We share views and opinions. Then we deliberate and in the end, do what we believe is best for the community. We welcome all of our stakeholders to openly discuss issues we face and argue points of view in a respectful and non-confrontational way. And my hope is that the lesson learned in our school community is a lesson that should be pointed out to our children, which is about how much we as Americans value our freedoms and our government by the people and for the people, especially at the local level. The motion this evening gives us time to study this more completely, to understand the unknowns that we have facing us in the enrollment that we are anticipating after COVID leaves us, so we have a better idea of what that situation will be in a year. And killing this motion, there actually is no way to kill an idea and never bring it back to the board. So this could surface in years to come, but it will give us some time to study this further, reevaluate, and have some more input to make an educated decision. If there are any board members who would like to chime in and offer their thoughts about where we are this evening after this 3-month study of this reconfiguration plan and moving forward from here.
Mr. Doug, I'd like to make a few comments, if I may.
Yes, Dr. Warfel, thank you.
And this is just my reflections on where I think we are, and if it comes up again, it would be again the point from which I believe we have to move forward. So, the administration has presented the board with a recommendation for configuration elementary school. The presentation is clear, and the position is clearly understood. As a board, we've been provided with survey information from the elementary staff that strongly supports the recommendation for a variety of reasons that I have yet had time to clearly delineate. But there's no question that the staff has supported this recommendation. And we have certainly heard from our community stakeholders. In the prior meeting, I mentioned that I had received at that point, I thought 30 emails. I have read through other emails that was construed to say that we had only received 30 emails. The contrary was that I was making a point that I thought 30 was a significant number. I have since then read and annotated 95 emails from parents, staff members, and members of the community. They have been respectful, appreciative of the volunteer efforts of the board, and it is certain that the parents love their schools and very much love their teachers. They are at times poignant, detailed, and filled with legitimate questions and suggestions. Included is a detailed PowerPoint presentation created and endorsed by a number of community members. In the big numbers, in the big picture, that 95 shakes out, and this is not an exact number, but 11 in favor, 65 opposed, 11 duplicate emails from parents who had previously all again opposed, 3 that were unclear to my reading, and 4 that supported reconfiguration in order to have 4th grade band reinstated. 3, excuse me. That's my count. That doesn't add up exactly to the 95 I'm talking about, but that's what that looks like. So for the allegations or the suggestion from the community that we have not received their emails and they have not been read, I just wanted to make that note. They've been heard. They have been read. So a couple of the things that I think we need as a basis for where we are right now. As a board, we have not had significant deliberations about the administration's proposals. We have pretty much had it and got off. We have had not a group deliberation about it. As a board, we have not had significant deliberations about alternate solutions in this current configuration. As a board, we have not had the opportunity to dissect the input from the community clearly, understand the breadth and scope of their concerns, let alone deliberate on the merits of their input. They are major stakeholders in this decision and have raised numerous concerns, questions, and thoughtful suggestions that I believe would deserve our consideration if we were to move forward with this discussion at any point in time. So thank you for the opportunity to make those comments.
Mr. President, I'd like to make some comments too, please.
Yeah, Mr. Tessier.
First of all, I'd like to say that I've received, obviously, we all did numerous emails from the public, which I will say that I've read every one of them that I've received. I'd like to direct this to the administration that I'm not interested in revisiting this topic again, that we've spent, the administration and the community spent an overwhelming amount of time with this topic. And I feel that the time and effort that we put in it should be spent looking into more creative alternatives. So I challenge the administration. Obviously, we have a problem with the Northwestern Elementary School and with space. And I would like to hear other alternatives put before me so I can make an informative decision with that. The last school board meeting, I communicated about receiving many emails referencing against the reconfiguration, and I challenged the public to send more emails that were for it. And I believe I only received about, I would say, less than 10 emails in public before it. And as a board member, I cannot ignore the petition, which we all received. And I believe there were 640 verified district resident signatures from our people that were against the reconfiguration. And we have to look at that, take that into account.
Thank you, John. You're on. Mrs. Lister?
Hi, everyone. I just want to remind us all that we are one team, we are one school district, we are one community. We care as parents, we care as teachers and staff and administrators and stakeholders, and I don't want us to lose sight of that. I feel that it's an honor to live in this community and serve this community, and that is of utmost importance. And I just hope that we can check in with each other, listen to each other, and remind each other that it's important to have good conversations, professional conversations, but to stay as positive as we can, look at best practices, and most of all, like, just be respectful to one another and become united, that we are, again, one community. We're gonna do our best when we work together.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Bill, just a couple comments. My call to action here for the community, and hopefully there are still folks listening in who have been paying attention to this topic. We sit through a lot of financial reviews. We sit through a lot of educational performance reviews that have showcased some vast issues that we have to face over the next 3 to 10 years. This district is not going to look the same 8 years or 10 years down the road. I don't think the community, frankly, is paying attention to that issue or those issues. I think a lot of what I saw and what I heard from the community, and we need to listen to those 640 or 700 folks who signed the petition. It's a short-term impact that I was reading in a lot of those emails versus the potential long-term ramifications that we as a board and as an administration have to frankly address sooner rather than later. Again, for those listening, we have millions of dollars leaving this district. We are projecting to be at a deficit position here beyond our taxable allowable increases for frankly the foreseeable future, to the tune of upwards of $1 million per year that's going to fall out of this budget, and that's without necessarily some of the potential other impacts that could happen post-COVID. So while you're thinking about and paying attention to this very topic, I would just ask that you also pay attention to the potential down the road financial implications of the program cuts that may indeed be coming. Those extracurriculars that your children are looking forward to in middle school and high school may not be there when you have your children at those age levels. So I think that's what puts us in a difficult position here, is the long-term view of where we're heading and needing to make some significant changes, right? These aren't little tweaks or adjustments that have to be had. These are some big moves that need to happen in order to take some $1 million costs out of the equation while trying not to impact programming. And then the other part of that, and what I really did not see in a lot of these messages, was the real inequity in the educational performance of the two schools. I was really hoping to see more Northwestern Elementary families pounding the table and demanding that they be offered the same equitable education opportunities as the children at Weisenberg. And as we've seen in test scores year after year, and while there are other factors certainly contributing to that, the messages we saw from teachers and administrators was that there is an impact in our ability to provide equitable education to the children of Northwestern. So again, I would ask, both pay attention to the financial implications of future programming, as well as the actual education being provided to your children when making decisions and signing petitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiser. Are there any other comments from board members? Mr. Faciano?
Bill, I'd like to say, one, thank you to everybody on this board, because there's been insight in a number of different directions from all of you, and I think it helps each and every one of us to see a bigger picture. And to the administration, I'd like to say, from my personal perspective, I'm not opposed to seeing this come back. I'm at a point where much more information for myself is needed. A little more comprehensive study as to the different options, like Mr. Cassiano brought up. Financial, all of the impacts that could really affect us. I go back to when every year, I think I end up saying this is the toughest decision we ever have to make, and each year it gets harder and harder. But I can't help but think about when we deliberated over turf and spent as much time as we did over turf. This is way more important, and I think to take a pause, come back and really sink our teeth into it in a number of different aspects is the right thing to do. I appreciate the community and all of their thoughts. I will say that when my wife and I chose to have kids, we knew we would make sacrifices. We knew we would make tough decisions. I think every parent knows that. And I hope that the parents of this community can also be a little more open-minded and try and find the positives as well as the negatives and keep us in charge of what you voted us in to do.
Thank you, Mr. Fassinger. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Yeah, Mr. Gallagher, I have a couple comments to make that I feel are important to put out in the public. The first one, I just want to make sure that I go on record by saying that the remark that I made at the April 7th workshop meeting that many community members referenced in their emails to us as a board simply only was meant to imply one thing, that as a board, we should be trusting and respecting the recommendations that are made by our administrative team and the educators that we work for when making decisions about reconfigurations or anything of importance in this district. My public comment was certainly not intended to suggest that any of us sitting around this table know what's best for your children other than you as parents. My comment was made in support of our administrative team's recommendation on what is the best educational structure that us as a board can support to provide that inclusive and collaborative and productive education experience for all students in this district. Secondly, I think it's important to note as a board member that I show up at these meetings every month and make decisions about issues that have immediate impacts on my own children, and also some decisions that have absolutely no impact on my own children under my roof. I didn't join this school board to influence decisions that are solely for the benefit of my own daughters, but I joined this board because I love the community at Northwestern Lehigh, and I want to ensure that unbiased board members are making decisions always with the best interest of students at every vote that we make. So I just implore the board that if and when this decision ever comes back up, that when we take it to a point like this where we're making a public decision, that we all feel unified on the decision that we're going to make, and that our community understands that there's never good times to make hard decisions and that people will always be affected. And I just ask the community to think about the way in which they're engaging with us and trust that we are making decisions for your students and for their educational experiences while here at Northwestern Lehigh. And that I don't like to think that in the future, people are defining the definition of community by the building that their children are going to school in. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Well said. Anyone else before we move on? Well, thank you for all your comments, and I think this pause that we're taking here will give us some time to think about this and deliberate further. Certainly, we have to come up with another solution. The enrollment numbers look doable for next year at this point, but that's not going to remain that way forever. And this pause that we're taking to reevaluate where we are and where we have to go will be continue to be studied by this board. And all these are well-spoken points this evening from the board members. You heard where we stand. I appreciate again those members of the community that did offer us a chance to look at this and deliberate, and had some trust in the composition of the people on, and the expertise and the skills of the people on this board. And again, thank you, the administrative staff and our teachers who have put so many hours into developing this plan, which I think is an a really good plan, but it was just not, may not be the time, and perhaps we have not done what we needed to do to sell it to make it acceptable to the community. While you're still tuned in tonight, these were my original president's report for this evening, and I wanted to take a minute to talk about our future, reiterating some of the things that Mr. Weiser just told us about our finances. Looking ahead, our school district has some very significant issues on the horizon relative to the finances, the curriculum, personnel, cultural changes, and programs that we will be facing. As was said by Mr. Weiser, we have a significant $3 million gap between our expenses and revenues for the last several years. It can't be fixed by simply raising taxes or reducing discretionary costs without a lot of hurt. By law, Act 1, the maximum our school district can increase our taxes this year is roughly $855,000. That's not going to bridge that $3 million gap that we have by raising taxes. The difference required to balance the budget, as we have done for the last several years, will be continued to be pulled from our fund balance, which is our savings account. But that cannot sustain more than maybe 5 or 6 years into the future. So how did we get to this point? A lot of this came about just recently from the increasing cyber charter migration from our school. The increasing numbers of students moving to charters is relatively new to us, but it has put a significant financial strain on our ability to remain status quo with all of the things that we enjoy here at Northwestern Lehigh. Although I believe in school choice, the current funding formula for cyber charter punishes all of us with increasing costs. And this year, that cost is over $2.5 million for cyber charter school tuition that we have to pay as a district. This $2.5 million is equal to the entire revenue we get from the earned income taxes that you pay in your payroll deductions, your payroll taxes. At $2.5 million that we counted on to maintain the programs that we have in this district is going out of the school into the cyber charter school system, private school system. So the finances have to be addressed. There was one overriding concern, I think, that we saw from the letters, the emails we received, and that was the transportation or the bus ride time. And because of the wide open spaces that we all enjoy in this community, bus ride times will continue to be a contentious and inherent problem for some families in our rural district, as long as the state reimbursement for loaded bus miles, and we will discuss this at future meetings, that loaded bus miles drives our design of the bus routes that we have. But fortunately, on a positive note, this current school board that you have, these current members have successfully navigated through many challenges, as Joe mentioned, through the past several years. We've done it in a respectful, collaborative, and effective way, solving problems that oftentimes gets little public notice. The issues we face are never standalone problems, and they are always interconnected and influenced by circumstances that have to be considered in total. And I want to assure you all tonight that this board is ready and equipped with a diverse set of skills and experience to meet the future challenges that lie ahead. And that we are grateful for your support, your input, patience, and trust. And that is the end of my president's report. Mrs. Holman, you have the superintendent's report this evening?
I do. I have a few things. We were pleased to welcome back our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students since our last board meeting. And so we are pleased to have all of our K through 8 students back 4 days per week. I would also like to publicly recognize those of you who are on the board who received this, our K to 12 music team, for being recognized as the best community for music education. Kudos certainly to this board and our community for supporting music education in our district. That has allowed certainly that recognition. As Dr. Hyman mentioned, I don't have a timeline for her, but was going to mention to the board, as you know, our Circle of Seasons on-site visit was on Friday, and so at some point in the future, we do need to define a timeline and a time when that will be discussed at the board level for the renewal or the request to renew their charter. Would like to mention that we participated in PSBA Advocacy Day on March 22nd with some of Senator Brown's staff, focusing on mandate relief as well as focusing on charter funding reform. We do have another, Mrs. Frisbee and I have another advocacy day scheduled on April 26th, but to date, neither Senator Brown or Representative Day have accepted appointments with us. Certainly, lastly but not least, one of the things Mrs. Frisbee and I are in the planning stages for, and certainly as a result of your decision tonight, we will be bringing back, we have to bring back a May budget presentation. But part of that budget presentation is ordinarily staffing plans, and so that will be part of our planning from this point till the May workshop to bring back some staffing plans to the board as part of the proposed final budget. Certainly concur with what Mrs. Lister said. My message last night was trying to say the same kind of thing that Mrs. Lister said. I don't know that it was all received that way, but certainly we are together and we will plan from here on out. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Holman. Any questions for the superintendent? Being none, personnel action. Item 2.01, Mrs. Matika, will you please take us through the personnel action this evening?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Delacour. There are only 20 items tonight. It's a relatively short agenda. Items highlighted in yellow have been added since Friday when the original agenda was posted. Only 2 items of mention, but they're important items, and it's the recognition of 2 employees who are retiring from the district for combined years of service of 28 more years to service to the district. It's the retirement of Donna Connect, part-time IA, and the retirement of Barbara Ritz, part-time district receptionist. So I would appreciate the recognition for their years of service to the district and the usual items, and I ask for your approval tonight.
Thank you. You heard and have seen the personnel action. Is there a motion to approve personnel?
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Rex.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sheffield. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, under curriculum and building issues, we vetted item 3.02 and 3.03 at the workshop, and these are the intermediate unit facilities plan and the partial reimbursement for the dual enrollment courses that our students take. And I would ask the board for consent agenda on those 2 items.
No move.
Motion by Mr. Patsy.
Second.
Second by Dr. Warfel. Any comments or questions on those 2 items? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Moving into policy, 4.02 is second reading and final approval for policy 103.1, which is a non-discrimination policy for students with disabilities. Is there anything to add to that policy since the 30-day?
No, sir.
I would entertain a motion to approve that policy.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Sheffield,
Second.
second by Mr. Rex. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Under operations, we have 1 item, 5.01, and that is approval of the Barry Isaac Middle School Waterline Project, which was discussed at the workshop. And Mr. Oakes, is there anything to add on that information we have to take action on?
Nothing other than that the expectation of DEP and their timeline will probably happen next summer. However, we're going to get everything specified out and bring it back to you in the fall for going out to bid this fall instead of this summer. You won't see it next week to go out to bid. However, we're going to create the project, so we need to authorize Barry Isaac to draw it up.
So the action tonight is to approve moving forward with Barry Isa to design the project.
That is correct.
With that, I would ask approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cassiano, second by Mrs. Lister. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Under district finances, I think we'll take 6.01 second, Mrs. Frisbee, and then we'll take 602 to 608 together since they were all vetted at the workshop. So would you please discuss 6.01? Is that Mrs. Edmonds that'll do that?
I can certainly do it or Mrs. Edmonds.
Go ahead, Mrs. Holman.
This was discussed with you in executive session. It is for a particular student in lieu of what is called a free and appropriate public education. I think we answered all of your questions, but I can't really answer any publicly because it's a special document. If you have any questions, we have to recess.
So before we ask questions, let's put a motion on the floor to approve this settlement agreement in lieu of free and appropriate public education.
Motion to approve the settlement agreement.
Motion by Dr. Warfel.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fassinger. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Motion carried. Mrs. Frisbee, let's walk through district finances. Is there anything to add to any of those items that we had not discussed or vetted during the workshop?
Good evening. No, there's not. All of those items are routine items that we discussed 2 weeks ago. No new information from what was previously discussed at workshop unless there's any specific questions by board members.
And then I would ask the board indulgence for a consent agenda for items 602 through 608. And that would be the intermediate unit agreement for special ed, intermediate unit notice of adoption of policies and procedures and use of funds, the IU Trans-Perfect agreement, which is a remote interpretation for children in need with that need. And 05 is the LCTI school lunch program coordination for to administer the free and reduced lunches for our students at LCTI. And the L-Tri-C dual enrollment agreement, which is no cost to the district, the reports that we discussed at the workshop, and the bills that are in front of you. So with that, I would ask a motion for 602 through 608.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fatsinger,
Second.
second by Mr. Weiser. Comments or questions on the finances? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Mr. Gallagher, I abstain from 6.08.
Okay, we have one abstention. Mrs. Shepard. Under other reports, we have the monthly enrollment report. And this time, is there anything you'd like to point out? You've seen it. Do you have it in front of you on your devices? Are there any questions about the enrollment report?
I don't have any comments, but we'll certainly answer any questions if you have them.
Seeing none, let's move to the foundation report. Mr. Stitzel, are you with us this evening?
I am with you this evening. I just have a reminder to get your registrations in for the foundation virtual and also in-person fun run, which is 5K and 10K run. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you get your registrations in, and you can find all the information on their website.
Thank you, Mrs. Stitzel. Next is committee reports from the IU. Dr. Wolf.
We met on Monday evening. We did have a presentation from the supervisor of the program for deaf. Oh, sorry. We met on Monday evening. We had a presentation from the supervisor of the programs for deaf and hard of hearing students, the audiology department, and for the vision orientation and mobility services. We have a few students involved in those services, but percentage is pretty low compared to, you know, a lot of the counties, but there are many, many students of great need who are served through those programs. And we're really blessed to have them available to us if our students need them. Other than that, it was a pretty routine meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Warfel. LCTI, Mr. Rex.
Yes, we had a meeting on March 24th. It was a Zoom meeting, as has been typical, and going forward, it'll continue to be Zoom. The budget is moving through the school district. So far, everyone has voted except for Allentown. And of the ones that voted, there was only one no vote, and that came from Whitehall Copley. There was a generator replacement bid awarded for replacing the oldest generator in the, so it would be the automotive home. So that was to use leftover funds from the welding lab. So that was released. They did receive the NOCTI waiver, as I reported last month, that they will not be that testing, so we did receive the waiver for that. And then there was a discussion related to the 4-day return. Other than that, and it passed, as you know. That was it.
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rex. L-Tri-C submitted to us on your devices and available to the public on the website. I think they called it a spring fact sheet, which they do for each of the school sponsoring school districts. So the Northwestern Lehigh spring fact sheet is on your device and on our website. And it has a lot of good, interesting information specific to Northwestern Lehigh and how we utilize L-Tri-C. It's up on the screen now behind me. And it also mentions the 29 Northwestern Lehigh students who achieved the Dean's List in this past semester. So I would encourage you to take a look at that and bring you up to date about what's going on at L-Tri-C. And finally, recognition, Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, we did have a meeting in March, and we also had a spring walk around. Everything looks good. The fields are open and they're being utilized. It's really it at the moment. Thank you.
Spring activity.
Yes.
Good. Good to see. Any old business that are not on the agenda? Is there any old business from any of the board members? Seeing none, also there is no new business on the agenda, but
No, there is.
oh, there is. I must have printed it off up there.
It's appointing the secretary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, I missed that. I'm sorry. I did see that. This is, yeah, we can't overlook this.
I know.
For a second night here. This is to appoint the, get it here. Assistant board secretary. And that would be board approval to appoint Stacey Eisenhart as the assistant board secretary. And really, she's the one, Mr. Cassiano, that does all the work, right?
Yes, sir.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve Stacey for this position.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cassiano.
Second.
Second by Mr. Batsinger. Questions or comments?
You certainly have big shoes to fill, helping me out.
Full-time job.
It is.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Once again. When we took the roll under new business, when we took the roll call this evening, it became apparent that we have perfect attendance. And have a question for our attorney, our solicitor, Attorney Moyer, if you're still with us.
I am, Mr. Delker.
Yeah, I know this is springing something on you that we haven't talked about, but somewhere along the line when we went to our virtual Zoom meetings, I think I recall a requirement that when we get back together as a full board, we have to approve or validate all of the action that was taken during these Zoom sessions. And I'm wondering if, I don't know if that's something we can do tonight or if that's something that has to be prepared and put on an agenda as a motion that we should do in the future, since it looks like we might be able to meet again in total.
Mr. Delagar, I think if you want to do it tonight, I think you can. As long as, I believe, when did we go virtual? March of 2020? So every work session and board meeting since then, approve the meeting minutes since then.
Would it be more appropriate or more accurate to develop a written motion that includes all the dates, just so that we get everything included and put it on the next month's agenda?
We can, and yes, that was the advice. I'd have to pull the memo that when we got back together, I think it was, the part of the policy where you were considered in person, not part of the quorum if you were online, that you took action on. And, so I can do that and put it together for May,
Okay,
if that's what you like.
okay, we have to do it sometime. I don't think there's any urgency to it, but let's get it done. Okay?
Yep.
Very good. Any other new business from the board? Seeing none, move into communications. And at this time, we will offer courtesy of floor to whom is anyone who is still with us that would like to address the board.
I do not see anyone, Mr. Delker.
There is no one who would like to address the board this evening. And next item is 10.02, communications from the board secretary, Mr. Cassiano.
I have nothing tonight.
Moving into administrative and building sharing. Dr. Sisnowbeek, will you please walk us through that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gibler.
Nothing this evening for the board. Thank you.
Ms. Foley.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Matika.
Nothing more, thank you.
Mrs. Frisbee.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Stitzel.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Burlett.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman.
No, sir. Thank you.
Chief Tobin.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Oakes.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Edmonds.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Yadish.
I have nothing, thank you.
That brings it to me. I have nothing this evening. Thank you. Mrs. Holman.
Nothing, thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Moving into board sharing, Mr. Rex.
Yeah, I just want to, congratulate the two retirees. 26 years, long time to be in the elementary school, and congratulations to Donna on her retirement. And also for Barbara, thank you.
Yeah, I think Donna was my wife's personal aide, as your wife was for a period of time.
Correct, yeah, you always remember who your, mine was, let's see, she still looks the same, lives up on the mountain road. I see her every once in a while, but Mrs. Fry, she worked up the wing, and I remember the IA that was from my elementary days.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer. Eliza.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Lister.
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Warfel.
A comment and a salute on the quality of our community. I can't cite the individuals who are directly responsible for this because I never did quite figure it out. But this Adopt the Senior program was just the most delightful thing to be involved with for the last 2 years. I don't know how many other people have, but they've orchestrated this on Facebook. We're all familiar with it. So it was just a delight to be able to be involved in it. So my congratulations to the organizers and to all the people in this community who reached out and showered these kids with some love for, when they go out there. To see the look on their face when they're presented with these surprises is just worth its weight in gold. So my congratulations to the participants and the organizers of that entire exercise.
Thank you, Dr. Warfel. Mr. Fatsinger?
Nothing more.
Mr. Hernandez?
Nothing here.
Just want to welcome Stacy to our team.
Thank you. Uh,
Mr. D'Amico was missed, but he said he doesn't have anything, so that's what I was just trying to figure out. He said he doesn't have anything to share, but he did miss it.
Okay, moving into meeting announcements then to wrap up the meeting. Next workshop meeting will be on May 5th, 7 o'clock here in the boardroom. We will have an executive session for personnel after that meeting, and the board meeting for May will be on May 12th at 7 o'clock in the boardroom. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mrs. Scheffler, second by Mrs. Lister. Meeting adjourned.